Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Always exciting to jump into a new one.
Today, we're going to be looking at this idea of cultural insignificance.
Okay.
And we're going to be using two movies as examples.
All right.
B movie
Oh, boy.
and Cars 2.
Yeah. Those two feel like they fit the description.
And we found this really interesting podcast
Okay.
called Strange Serenity.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a whole episode about it.
Nice.
So we're going to kind of be using their analysis
Sounds good.
as a jumping off point for our own discussion today.
I'm ready.
Okay, so first of all, what even is cultural insignificance?
Right. That's a good question.
Like, how can something be popular
Yeah.
and even, generate memes, but still be considered culturally insignificant?
So I think the key here is impact.
Okay.
Like, does this thing actually have any lasting effect?
Like on society or?
On society, on culture, on how we think about things.
Right.
You know, like a movie can be a huge hit.
Right.
Everyone sees it.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about it?
Like Avatar.
Sure, like Avatar.
But then, a few years later,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it never even happened.
Exactly. And that's kind of what Strange Serenity is arguing.
About B movie and Cars 2.
Yeah, like these movies made a splash.
They made money.
Definitely.
People saw them.
But did they actually change anything?
Did they leave a mark?
Like, did they spark any important conversations?
Did they make us think differently about the world?
Or about ourselves?
I don't know. I mean, I remember seeing B movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember thinking, what is this?
I mean, the premise itself is just bonkers of bee suing humanity.
For honey.
For honey.
Like what?
And then there's the whole bee-human romance thing.
Oh, God, don't even get me started on that.
Yeah. Strange Serenity really went in on that.
They called it creepy.
Which it is.
Like, I'm all for interspecies harmony.
Sure.
But a bee and a human woman?
I mean, come on.
That's just pushing it.
Yeah, I think the filmmakers were going for like a quirky romantic comedy vibe.
But it just came across as weird.
And that's kind of the problem with the whole movie.
Oh.
It's like they had all these ideas.
About the environment.
Right, about corporate greed.
About, what it means to be an individual.
Threw them all in a blender.
And hope for the best.
And the result is this kind of incoherent mess.
Where the message gets totally lost.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to make a statement.
But they ended up saying nothing. So, I can barely remember what happens in that movie.
Yeah, me neither.
Except for that "you like jazz" meme.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
But even that's more about,
the absurdity of the scene.
Than any actual commentary.
Exactly, and that's what Strange Serenity is getting at.
With this whole idea of cultural insignificance.
Like, B-movie had its moment.
It was popular.
It made money.
It spawned memes.
But then it just kind of faded away.
Leaving behind nothing? No lasting impact?
No meaningful conversations.
Just a few memes.
And a vague sense of, what the hell did I just watch?
Pretty much. Okay, so B movie is a bit of a mess.
We've established that.
But what about Cars 2?
Oh boy, Cars 2.
Surely Pixar.
Yeah.
The studio that gave us Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
Finding Nemo. Couldn't have made something as insignificant as B movie.
Well, Strange Serenity would argue otherwise.
Really?
They actually call Cars 2 a Pixar misfire.
Ooh, that's harsh.
But I mean, have you seen that movie?
It's been a while.
It's basically Mater fan fiction.
What do you mean?
Like, they took Mater the tow truck and made him the main character.
Instead of Lightning McQueen.
Exactly. And the plot is this ridiculous spy thriller.
Mater as a spy.
I know, right?
That's so weird.
And it completely abandons the themes of the first Cars movie.
Which were actually kind of profound.
Right, like slowing down.
Appreciating the simple things. Finding your purpose.
Yeah, Cars 2 is just a bunch of explosions and car chases.
And the Mater bumbling around in the middle of it all.
And Strange Serenity really did not like that.
What'd they say?
They basically said that Mater is a fine character.
In small doses.
Right, as a sidekick.
But as the lead.
It just doesn't work.
It's too goofy.
Too over the top.
And his accent.
Oh, God, the accent.
It's like nails on a chalkboard.
They called it grating and tiresome.
Which I kind of agree with.
Yeah, it's like they took a character that was meant to be comic relief.
And stretched him way too thin.
And the result is this kind of annoying mess.
That completely undermines the heart of the original Cars movie.
Exactly. And Strange Serenity argues that this is another example.
Of cultural insignificance.
Like they made a sequel.
Just to cash in.
On the success of the first one.
Without putting any real thought.
Into the story or the characters.
And that's why Cars 2 ends up feeling so hollow.
And ultimately forgettable.
Okay, so we've got B movie.
A bizarre comedy about talking bees.
And Cars 2.
A convoluted action flick starring a tow truck.
And somehow both of these movies
Are considered culturally insignificant.
which is wild.
Right? Like, how can two movies
That are so different.
end up in the same category?
Yeah. Well, that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating.
We're not just talking about bad movies here.
Right.
We're talking about a phenomenon.
That speaks to something deeper.
About our culture.
About how we consume entertainment.
About what we value.
Okay, my brain is officially fried.
I think we need a break.
We'll be back in a bit to continue this deep dive.
Into the strange world of cultural insignificance.
Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back.
All right, so we've spent like the last 20 minutes talking about how bad these movies are.
B-movie and Cars 2.
Yeah, but Strange Serenity actually makes this argument.
Okay.
That these movies are valuable.
Valuable. How?
Because they're so bad.
I mean, I get that bad movies can be entertaining.
Right. Like so bad it's good.
But that's a new one.
Yeah, so they're saying that
Okay.
because these movies are so empty.
Empty, how, like
they have no real substance.
Okay.
No lasting message. That they actually reveal something. About modern storytelling.
Oh, okay.
And about our culture in general.
So it's like a reflection of something bigger.
Exactly.
Okay, so walk me through this.
So, both of these movies.
B-movie and Cars 2.
Yeah. They prioritize spectacle over substance.
Okay.
They're all about the flashy visuals.
The explosions, the car chases.
Yeah, and the jokes, when you really look at them.
But there's no heart.
There's no real emotional connection.
And definitely no meaningful message.
It's like they're just empty calories.
Ooh. That's a good analogy.
Like junk food.
You eat it and you're like, oh, that was fun.
But then, an hour later, you're hungry again.
Because it didn't actually nourish you.
And Strange Serenity is saying that these movies are like that.
They're entertaining in the moment.
But they don't leave any lasting impact.
They don't make you think.
They don't make you feel anything real.
And they definitely don't make you want to change the world.
And they're arguing that this emptiness,
this lack of meaning,
is actually a reflection of our culture.
Because we're so obsessed with instant gratification.
With fleeting trends.
With consuming and then forgetting.
Like we scroll through our feeds.
We watch a video.
We laugh at a meme.
And then we move on.
To the next thing.
Without giving it a second thought.
And these movies are kind of like that.
They're designed to be consumed.
And then forgotten.
Like they're not meant to be watched again.
Or analyzed.
Or discussed.
They're just meant to entertain you for a couple of hours.
And then disappear.
Into the void of cultural insignificance.
Which is kind of a depressing thought.
It is kind of depressing.
Like, are we really that shallow?
Are we really content with just consuming?
Without thinking, without feeling.
Without connecting.
I mean, I hope not.
I hope not either.
But Strange Serenity makes a good point.
That these movies are a symptom of something bigger.
Of a cultural shift towards superficiality.
Towards valuing fleeting moments over lasting impact.
And that's something we need to be aware of.
Because if we're not careful,
we might end up losing our ability
to engage with art.
To have meaningful experiences.
To connect with each other on a deeper level. So what do we do?
I mean, I don't have all the answers.
But I think the first step
is awareness.
Like we need to be conscious
of the media we're consuming
and the effects it's having on us.
And we need to be willing to demand more
from our entertainment,
from ourselves,
from the world.
And that brings us to the really big question.
The one that Strange Serenity leaves us with.
Hit me with it.
What if the real question isn't whether these movies have meaning,
but what their existence tells us about ourselves?
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah, that one's gonna keep me up at night.
All right, so we're back.
Back in the deep end.
Trying to wrap our heads around this idea
of cultural insignificance.
And that big question.
From Strange Serenity.
What does the existence of these movies
tell us about ourselves?
Like, what are they reflecting back at us?
About our culture, about our values.
It's kind of a scary thought.
It is a little unsettling.
Because, are we really that shallow?
Are we really so easily entertained?
By movies that have no real meaning.
No lasting impact.
I mean, I like a good popcorn flick as much as the next person.
Sure, we all need a break from reality sometimes.
But these movies are like the opposite of reality.
They're like hyper-reality.
Everything is so exaggerated.
So over the top.
So devoid of any real human emotion.
And yet we eat it up.
We spend our money.
We watch the sequel.
We buy the merchandise.
And then we forget about it.
Like it never even happened.
And that's the part that bothers me.
The forgetting.
Like, it's one thing to enjoy something mindless.
But it's another thing to just let it pass through you.
Without leaving any trace.
And I think that's what Strange Serenity is getting at.
With this whole idea of cultural insignificance.
It's not just that these movies are bad.
It's that they're a symptom of something bigger.
Of a culture that's become so obsessed with consumption,
With instant gratification.
with the next shiny thing,
That we've lost the ability to appreciate.
things that have real value,
Things that challenge us.
things that make us feel something.
And I think that's a dangerous path to be on.
Because if we're not careful,
We're going to end up living in a world
where everything is surface level
where nothing has any depth,
and where genuine human connection
is replaced by
memes and merchandise.
and fleeting moments of entertainment.
So what's the solution?
I don't know that there's a simple answer.
But I think the first step is awareness
Like, we need to be conscious of what we're consuming,
and why we're consuming it.
and we need to be willing to ask ourselves,
Is this actually enriching my life?
or am I just filling the void
With empty calories?
with meaningless entertainment?
With things that are ultimately going to be forgotten?
And I think it's also important to remember
That we have a choice.
we don't have to just passively consume whatever's put in front of us.
We can seek out things that have real value,
Things that challenge us.
things that inspire us.
Things that make us feel something.
And by doing that,
We can start to shift the culture
we can start to create a world
where meaning and depth,
are valued over.
superficiality and spectacle.
So yeah, it's a bit of a bleak picture.
But I think there's hope.
As long as we're willing to be mindful
And intentional
about the choices we make,
about the media we consume
about the stories we tell.
and the stories we choose to believe in.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a wild ride
We'll catch you next time
for another exploration.
of the strange and the serene.